Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Todd McLean.
Mr. Speaker, listening to that last intervention from the Honourable Annette King makes me feel so very, very sorry for poor old David Cunliffe. Because you see what happened at the last election, Mr. Speaker. All the members of the Labor Party on that side of the House deserted him as fast as they could. And when one looks at the last poll published around the country, poor old David Cunliffe was polling higher on that day as preferred Prime Minister, and the Labor Party was also polling higher than currently they are after the last 6 months, and certainly higher than their new leader, Andrew Little, is. And here's a prediction for you, Mr. Speaker. Very soon there will be a poll around preferred Prime Minister that shows the true leader of the opposition is the Honourable Winston Peters, not Andrew Little, because Andrew Little is going down and Winston Peters on that side of the House is going up. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? The reason for that is because the opposition, the Labor Party, have the shortest memories of any political party of the history of this country. And I want to read this. There's a statement that was made in this House not so long ago. Much concern has been expressed about over-investing in housing, and the impact of tax system is encouraging this. This then goes on to say, I'm mindful of the fact that under the current law, investing in housing for the purpose of making a capital gain that is trading in housing is taxable, and therefore, under a significance of this fact, send a clear signal to the housing investors that the purport of the current law has been agreed upon between the Commissioner of Inland Revenue and myself, that an additional $14.6 million will be put in over 3 years to focus on housing tax compliance. Mr. Speaker, that was in 2007 under a Labor government, and it was Michael Cullen that said that. Well, in 2010, under exactly the same law, this national government gave Inland Revenue $33 million to look at property tax compliance. Over the last 5 years, that's returned $258 million in additional tax. In 2013, we gave Inland Revenue another $33 million, and in the budget tomorrow, an extra $29 million. Over the next 5 years, Mr. Speaker, Inland Revenue will have $62 million to go out and focus on the current law that's been put in place, has been in place since 1970s, and they say they will return about $420 million on that. Now, Mr. Speaker, we do believe that good tax law needs certain rules, and taxpayers as well as Inland Revenue need certainty, and that's the reason that the Prime Minister announced that under the budget there will be a number of changes. The first is, Mr. Speaker, anybody that is purchasing a house in New Zealand other than their own home, their principal place of residence, will need to provide an Inland Revenue number at the time of purchase. For a foreigner, Mr. Speaker, a non-tax resident, they'll have to give us their tax information number from their own country. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, they'll need to open a bank account in New Zealand before that non-tax resident can get an IRD number, which means the full range of New Zealand's anti-money laundering laws will apply to them. I think it's reasonable that we know that anybody that wants to be involved in New Zealand pays their fair share of tax and actually are coming here with good intent. And we're going to look to investigate and implement a withholding tax system so that those non-tax residents, when they sell a property and are captured by the existing rule, will have to pay that tax on the spot, and that will have them, Inland Revenue will have the money. They will need to apply to get it back in the case that they feel that the tax is not due. On top of this, Mr. Speaker, we want to provide greater certainty and clarity to the taxpayer. So within the first 2 years, with the exception of your family home, your principal place of residence, a home that you may have inherited, or because of a marriage settlement, there will be a bright line test that says if you have made a profit from a house that you've purchased and that you've sold, you must pay tax on any gain, and there will be a number of rules that will work out around that. Good tax law is consulted on, so we will be consulting on that before it comes before the House. Mr. Speaker, the challenge in many parts of New Zealand and in Auckland is one of supply. We need good tax rules for those that should be paying tax but it's one of supply. In the last year or so, we've gone from 14,000 houses a year being built to 25,000 houses a year built, and there will be 43,000 additional houses able to be built under the special housing areas that Nick Smith has negotiated with parts of the country. So, Mr. Speaker, the government's focusing on supply. We're making sure that those that should be paying tax are paying tax. We're making sure that the rules are clear, and then given Inland Revenue $62 million over 5 years around property compliance to make sure that all those that should be paying tax are. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Tomorrow on Budget Day,